Some mountain passes are dangerous because of steep roads, thick fog, and deep ravines. But some are dangerous because they know how to call your name. That year, during the golden rice season in Mu Chang Chai, when hundreds of travelers came to Khau Pha Pass to watch paragliders drift above the valley, a 17-second video was uploaded online and then disappeared only a few hours later. In that video, a red paraglider floated in the middle of a white sea of fog. It did not drop. It did not get tossed by the wind. There was no pilot hanging beneath it. Only a red canopy slowly crossing the mountainside as if it were searching for someone. At the 13th second, the person filming screamed, "There's someone down in the ravine!" But when the rescue team went down to check, there was no one there. No body. No harness. No footprints. Only a small voice recorder caught in the brush, still running. In the final audio file from that recorder, people heard a man whisper through the wind, "Don't follow the red paraglider." Then a child's voice answered right after him, very close, very clear, "But if you don't follow it, you'll never see your father again." Khau Pha Pass is one of the high, dangerous mountain passes of Vietnam's northwest, located along National Route 32 inIen Bai Province. It sits near the route connecting the areas of Mu Cang Chai and Van Chan, a region known for steep mountain roads, sudden fog, and spectacular terraced rice fields during harvest season. Travelers come here for the views, for the golden valleys, and for the feeling of standing above clouds. During the rice season, the pass is also associated with adventure tourism and paragliding over the landscape below. This story uses that real setting as its foundation. The people, the accident, the red paraglider, and the recordings are fictional. But like many mountain roads, Khau Pha has one truth that does not need to be invented. When fog drops over a pass like that, distance changes, sound changes, and the road ahead can disappear faster than a person expects.
Lam did not return to Khau Pha because he was curious. He returned because of an old cassette tape. His mother had hidden the tape at the bottom of a wooden cabinet for nearly 20 years. After she died, Lam found it beneath a stack of yellowed photographs, an old handkerchief, and a carefully folded piece of newspaper. On the cassette case, written in blue ballpoint pen, were the words, "Khau Pha. Do not open until Lam is 30. Lam was 32. He worked as a sound designer for storytelling channels, documentaries, and travel videos. His job was to record the things other people ignored. Wind slipping through a cracked door, tires grinding over wet stones, a person's breath trembling in a dark room. He used to joke with his friends that he could tell whether someone was truly afraid just by listening to their footsteps. But on the night he played his father's cassette, Lam could not understand what he was hearing at all. At first, there was only wind. Not city wind. Not ocean wind. It was long, dry, sharp, and cold, like someone blowing through a flute carved from bone. After almost a minute, his father's voice came through. Hoarse. Broken. Lam, if you ever hear this tape, don't go to Khau Pha during fog season. Lam sat frozen in front of the old cassette player. His father, Hoa, had died when Lam was 12. His mother had only told him that his father had been in an accident while traveling for work in the mountains. No one in the family ever explained more. There was no large memorial, no clear portrait on the altar, no complete story. Every time Lam asked, his mother would look toward the window and say, "Some people who vanish on mountain roads are not found just because someone looks for them." That night, after his father's first sentence, the tape went silent for a long time. Then Hoa spoke again. I saw the red paraglider. The wind grew louder. There was the sound of metal striking metal. Someone was crying. Then his father's voice nearly collapsed into breath. It doesn't fly to save people. It flies to lead them back to what they left behind. The tape ended with 3 knocks. As if someone were tapping from inside the body of a vehicle. 3 days later, Lam accepted a sound recording contract for a small travel film crew. They needed audio from the golden season in Mood Song Chai, paragliding at Khau Pha, wind at the top of the pass, market voices, footsteps on terraced fields. The producer was Trang, an old friend of Lam's. When she heard him accept the job, she laughed. You hate mountain trips. Why did you agree so fast? Lam did not tell her about the cassette. He only said, I want to record real mountain wind. Trang did not know that Lam was not trying to record the wind. He was trying to record his father's voice. The van left Hanoi at 3 in the morning. By the time they neared Tulu, rain had begun to fall. It was not heavy rain, just a thin mist drifting across the windshield, enough to blur the mountains ahead until they looked like ink paintings. The driver hired by the homestay met them near the town. He was a man around 40, with sun-darkened skin, a lean but solid build, and a calm face. He wore an old army green jacket and a black wool cap. He spoke Vietnamese slowly, but clearly. My name is Pao. If you're going up Khau Pha, let me drive. Fog comes down fast here. Strangers take the wrong curve easily. Trang shook his hand. You're the driver the homestay recommended? Pao smiled slightly. Everyone knows everyone here. It sounded so ordinary that nobody asked another question. Lam sat in the passenger seat with his audio bag under his feet. Inside were his recorder, shotgun microphone, headphones, backup batteries, and his father's cassette. As the vehicle began to climb, Pao glanced at him. You've been here before?
Lam Stephen.
No. Pao stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then why do you look like someone who left something up here? Trang, from the back seat, laughed. Pao, that sounds like the opening line of a horror movie. Pao did not laugh. This pass doesn't like jokes when there's fog.
Trang sợ lâu thơ phây.
Khau Pha appeared after a long bend. The black, wet road curled around the mountainside. On one side rose a wall of stone. On the other side waited a white emptiness. Far below, Lim Mong Valley lay beneath a thin sheet of cloud. Golden terraced fields flickered through the mist, so beautiful that it was easy to forget one small mistake at the wheel could make everything disappear. Lam lowered the window. Cold wind struck his face. He turned on his recorder. Inside the headphones, the wind of Khau Pha came through cleanly. It was not the same as the wind on his father's tape. At least not at first. By the 7th curve, the sound changed. Beneath the wind, Lam heard a thin whistle. Long. Sharp. Like a flute. He frowned and adjusted the microphone. The whistle remained. How? Lam asked. Is someone playing a flute nearby? Pao kept his eyes on the road. That's not a flute. Then what is it? The past breathing. Trang leaned forward. A mountain pass can breathe? Pao answered softly. Anything that swallows enough people has to breathe them out someday. No one spoke after that. They reached a rest point near the top of the pass just before dusk. The area was being prepared for a festival. Tents stood beside the road. Colored flags moved in the wind. Several paragliders lay stretched on the grass while pilots checked their lines. People in windbreakers spoke into radios. Tourists took pictures and laughed. The scene was normal. Bright. Crowded. The crowd made Lam feel safer. He told himself he had only been too sensitive because of the cassette. Trang pulled him toward the launch area to record natural sound. She wanted every real detail. Clips locking into harnesses, canopy fabric snapping in the wind, radios crackling, pilots counting down before takeoff. A female pilot named Han agreed to let them record near her. She was about 28, small but steady, with her hair tied high and bright, alert eyes. On her shoulder was a patch shaped like a red bird wing. "You're making a travel film?" Han asked. Trang said, "Part travel, part mystery. Audiences love strange stories in real places." Han was checking her lines. At that sentence, her hand stopped. "There are many strange stories at Khau Pha, but don't mention the red paraglider." Lam looked at her. "You know about it too?" Han raised her eyes. "Who told you?" Lam started to lie, but for reasons he did not understand. He opened his bag and took out the cassette. "My father left this. On the tape, he mentioned a red paraglider at Khau Pha." Han did not touch it. She only stared at it as if it were a dead thing. "What was your father's name?"
Lê Minh Hoa.
This time, Pao, standing nearby, turned sharply. His wool cap hid half his face, but Lam saw his fingers tighten around the strap of his bag. Han looked at Pao. Pao looked down at the ground. Trang sensed the shift in the air. Han shook her head. "Nothing. Years ago, there was a man here with that name."
Làm Stipek Galo.
"What did he do?" Pao answered for her. "He drove." "Where did he die?" Pao said nothing. A whistle from the launch area cut through the moment. The wind changed direction. The first paragliders began to take off. In the afternoon light, they ran down the slope and suddenly rose as the wind caught them, gliding above the golden terraces like enormous birds. Tourists cheered. Cameras followed them. Trang forgot the conversation and rushed back into work. But from that moment on, Lam knew something had been hidden. And Pao knew more than anyone. That night, the crew stayed at a homestay below the pass. Dinner was sticky rice from Tulu, grilled stream fish, wild greens, and corn liquor. The owner, a woman named Mai, was warm and talkative. She laughed easily. But when Trang asked, "Does Pao drive guests here often?" the woman spilled a few drops of liquor on the table. "Which Pao?" Trang pointed toward the yard. "The driver who took us up the pass. Green jacket, black wool cap." I looked outside. The vehicle was parked under a plum tree. No one stood near it. "Oh," she said after a pause. Maybe someone from town. Her voice had changed. Quickly, like a person closing a door inside her own mind.
Lam noticed.
Night fell and fog covered the village. Around 11, Lam carried his recorder out to the porch. He wanted nighttime sound from Khau Pha. Distant dogs, insects, wind moving under the wooden roof, water running through the gully. Trang was asleep. Pao was nowhere to be seen. Lam put on his headphones and pressed record. First, everything was normal. Then the whistle returned. Small, but clearer than it had been on the pass. It did not come from one direction. Sometimes it was on the left, sometimes behind him, sometimes it seemed to brush the edge of his ear. Lam removed the headphones. In the real night, he heard nothing. He put them back on. The whistle was still there. Then came footsteps. Slow steps. Wet and soft on the mud. Lam turned around. The yard was empty. The footsteps in his headphones stopped. A man's voice spoke.
Lam.
He shot to his feet. It was his father's voice. Not perfect because it was warped and mixed with wind. But Lam knew it. Some voices can be recognized even if you have only heard them once inside a dream. Lam, open the door for me. The blood in his body seemed to freeze. The wooden door behind him was closed. No one knocked. But in his headphones, the knocking came. The same 3 knocks from the end of the cassette. Lam tore the headphones off and stumbled backward. Behind him, the door opened. Trang stood there, pale and wide-eyed. Did you just call me?
No.
I heard someone knocking on my room door. They stared at each other. From the far end of the yard, Pao walked out of the fog. He held an old flashlight. Go inside, Pao said. Lam asked, where did you come from? Checking the road. In the middle of the night? The fog is thick. Tomorrow someone may get lost. Trang snapped, Pao, what is actually going on here? Pao looked at the recorder in Lam's hand. You recorded it, didn't you? Lam felt the cold move up his spine. Recorded what? Pao answered, the thing that calls people back. The next morning, the sky was unnaturally clear. The golden season spread below them in full brightness. Terraced fields stepped across the mountains as far as the eye could see. More people had come up to the pass. Motorbikes, cars, cameras, drones, voices, speakers announcing flight schedules. Trang decided to film the main sequence at the launch area. Lam went looking for Han. He found her sitting alone at the edge of the hill, adjusting the clips on a blue paraglider. Han, Lam said. Last night I heard my father's voice in my recorder. She did not look surprised. You're not the first. So my father died here? Han hesitated. You should ask Pao. Why does everyone keep telling me to ask him? Han looked toward the parking area, where Pao stood smoking. Because without your father, Pao would not be alive to tell the story. Lam could not move. Han told him slowly. Many years earlier, when the pass was emptier and more dangerous than it is now, there had been an accident during fog season. A small passenger vehicle became trapped after it swerved to avoid a rockslide. Inside were several local people, a child, and a driver named Hoa. Hoa managed to get several people out. But when he heard knocking from the back of the vehicle, he went back. Then the fog came down. More earth and stone collapsed. People only found the crushed vehicle and traces of blood on the driver's seat. They did not find Hoa. They did not find the last child. Lam swallowed hard. That child was Pao? Han stayed quiet too long. Then she said, "That's what people say." "What does that mean?" Before she could answer, her radio crackled. A man's voice announced, "Wind is stable. Prepare for the next flight." Han stood. "This afternoon, if fog drops before 5, leave the pass immediately. No matter what you hear, don't turn back." "Because of the red paraglider?" Han looked directly at him. "Because people who follow it usually don't know who they're trying to save." By 4 in the afternoon, the weather began to change. Fog rose from the valley very quickly, as if someone were pouring buckets of white smoke into the mountain hollows. The wind turned colder. Loudspeakers announced that flights were temporarily suspended. Tourists started packing up. Trang wanted a few more shots of fog rolling over the golden fields. "Just 10 minutes," she said. "This light is beautiful." Pao immediately refused. "We go down now."
Trang Frau Wen.
"You always say that. We came here to film." Pao looked up at the sky. "This is not normal fog." Lam felt uneasy too. In the headphones hanging around his neck, although the recorder was not on, he could hear the faint whistle again. Then the crowd ahead began to stir. Someone pointed into the air. "A paraglider." "But they just stopped the flights. Look at that color, red." Lam turned. Out of the fog above the pass, a red paraglider drifted forward. It was lower than the others. Slower. It did not sway. It did not spin with the wind. It moved as if someone were pulling it with an invisible cord.
Chàng lại phét hơ camera.
Lam looked through her viewfinder. Beneath the red canopy, there was no one. No pilot. No hanging seat. Only loose lines dangling down, long and dark, like wet hair. The cheering changed into whispers. One pilot shouted, "Who was flying that?" No one answered. The radios screamed with static. Then a child's voice came through every radio at once.
Un sổ hoa.
"I'm still in the car."
Làm stúp Froren.
Pao rushed forward and shoved Trang's camera down. "No more filming."
Chàng Pulek Bắc Angeli.
"What are you doing?" Pao did not explain. He grabbed Lam's arm. "Go." But Lam could not look away from the red paraglider. It was drifting toward an old bend below the main road, where an overgrown track seemed to lead into a ravine. In his headphones, his father's voice returned.
Lam.
"I'm here." Lamb took one step. Khau caught his shoulder. That is not your father. Let go. Listen to me. The voice of the dead is not the dangerous thing. The dangerous thing is the voice of the living when you think they're already dead. That sentence stopped Lamb. But Trang had already run. She thought the paraglider was falling into the ravine, and she wanted the first footage of the rescue.
Trang!
Lamb ran after her. The fog swallowed her within seconds. Khau cursed under his breath and chased Lamb down the track. The path was slick. The soil was soft. Wet grass slapped against their legs. The voices from the past faded behind them. Soon there was only wind, breath, and the whistle growing clearer. The red paraglider appeared and disappeared ahead of them. Then it was no longer flying. It had caught on an old fir tree, its fabric pulsing in the fog. Trang stood under it. She was motionless, her camera lying by her foot, her eyes fixed on the ravine. Lamb ran to pull her back. Trang whispered, "There's a child down there." Lamb looked down. The ravine was only white fog. "There's no one." "There is. He called me," he said. "He's trapped in the car." Khau arrived, his face drained of color. "Step back." From below, the knocking came. This time it was not in Lamb's headphones. All of them heard it. Trang began to cry. Lamb bent down and picked up her camera. It was still recording. On the screen, beneath the fog, an old vehicle appeared, tilted among the rocks. A white vehicle. Its rear door was crushed. A piece of red cloth was stuck to the windshield. Lamb raised his head. In the real ravine, there was still nothing but fog. But on the camera screen, the vehicle was clear. And inside it, a small hand was knocking against the glass. Lamb heard his own breath shaking. Khau stood behind him, his voice rough. "Stop looking through the camera. Is that my father's vehicle?" Khau did not answer. "You know, don't you?" The fog thickened around them. The red canopy in the tree began to thrash, though there was no wind. From the ravine, Lamb's father called out, "Khau, get the boy out first." Lamb turned to Khau. The driver's eyes were red. "You were the child." Khau shook his head. "No." "Then who are you?" Khau looked down into the fog. "I'm the one who heard the knocking and didn't go back." Khau told the truth in the fog. That year he had been 17. He was not the child. He was the driver's assistant. The vehicle had become trapped after a small rockslide. Hoa, Lamb's father, had carried the passengers out one by one. One little boy remained inside, asleep on the back seat, the child of a woman returning from market. When more rocks began to fall, Khau panicked. He ran. Hoa went back for the boy. Khau stood on the road and heard 3 knocks from the rear of the vehicle. He heard them clearly. But he was afraid. He told no one. The fog covered the road. By the time rescuers arrived, the vehicle had been carried farther down. They found neither Hoa nor the child. Years later, I came back to search, Khau said. I went down into this ravine many times, but I found no vehicle, no bodies, only a piece of red cloth caught in a tree. A red cloth? Lam asked. Your father's raincoat. He tore it and tied it to a branch as a marker. Later, people saw it from far away and thought it was a paraglider. Lam looked at the red canopy breathing in the tree. But this is a real paraglider. Khau looked at him. When enough people believe in something, the past can borrow its shape to call them.
Chàng Clut chết làm Sam.
We need to leave. But it was too late. The track behind them had vanished. Not hidden by fog. Vanished. Where they had walked down, there was now only a steep wall of earth and heavy brush. Han's radio crackled inside Trang's pocket. Lam's group, do you copy? Answer me. People are looking for you. Trang pressed the button. Hang, we're below the track near the red paraglider. The other end went silent. Then Han spoke very slowly. There is no track down there at Khau Pha. A heavy sound rose from the ravine. Like a vehicle door opening after years of being trapped. Out of the fog, a child stepped forward. He wore a brown sweater and muddy cloth pants. His head was lowered. In both hands, he held an old cassette recorder. Lam could not breathe. The child raised his face. He was pale but not ruined, not frightening, only sad. He held the recorder toward Lam. Uncle Hoa told me to give this to you. Lam stepped back. I already have the tape. The child shook his head. That one is for the living. He held the recorder closer. This one is for those who were left behind. Khau collapsed to his knees. He trembled like a man about to be sick.
I'm sorry, Khau whispered. I'm sorry.
I heard you knocking. I heard it. The child looked at Khau. If you had gone back, both of you would have died. Khau broke into tears. But Uncle Hoa went back. Because he knew I was not the only one in the car.
Lam Frau Wen.
Who else was there? The child turned toward him. In that instant, the wind stopped completely. The silence became so deep that Lam could hear his own heartbeat. The child said, You. Lam shook his head. No, I never came to Khau Pha as a child. Khau looked up sharply. His face went white. The child kept watching Lam. You forgot. Memory struck Lam's mind like a shard of glass. The smell of gasoline. Rain hitting the windshield. A large hand pushing him under a seat. His father's voice saying, Lie still, don't cry. A woman screaming. Another child knocking from the back. Then someone dragging Lam out. Not his father.
Khau.
A younger Khau, his face covered in blood, crying as he pulled Lam away from the vehicle. Lam's father had gone back to rescue the child still trapped inside. Then the fog took everything. Lam fell to his knees. He remembered. He had been in that vehicle. He had not lost his father in some distant, unknown accident. He had survived that exact crash. His mother had hidden the truth because every time someone mentioned Khau Pha, Lam developed a fever, talked in his sleep, and knocked 3 times against the side of his bed at midnight. Pau's voice broke. "I carried you out. Your father told me to take you first. I thought he would come out after us." Lam looked at him. For the first time, Pau no longer seemed like a mountain driver. He looked like a man trapped in the same day for 20 years. The child placed the cassette recorder on the ground. Uncle Hoa does not blame anyone. Then he turned and walked back into the fog. Lam called, "What is your name?" The child stopped. "I don't remember anymore." He pointed down into the ravine. But the vehicle remembers. As soon as the child vanished, the ground shook. The old fir tree tore loose from the earth. The red paraglider fell, covering the ground in front of them. Something bulged beneath the fabric.
Chang screamed.
Pau rushed forward and pulled the canopy aside. An old vehicle door appeared. Only part of it. Rusty. Crushed. But on it were still 3 small dents, like the marks of a child's hand knocking from inside. Lam turned on his recorder. He did not know why. Maybe because he had spent his life using sound to understand the things his eyes refused to see. He placed the microphone near the vehicle door. In his headphones, between the wind and the shifting earth, his father's voice came through. This time it was clear. Warm. Tired. But peaceful. "Lam, if you are hearing this, it means you came back. I'm sorry I made you wait so long." Lam began to cry. His father continued. "Don't look for me in the ravine. The one still trapped here is not me. It is the fear of the living. If you meet Pau, tell him, I do not blame him." Pau covered his face.
Un sổ hoa.
"And if you see the red paraglider," his father said, "don't follow it to die. Follow it only to understand who you need to forgive." The tape crackled. Then another sound came. Not wind. Not knocking. Brakes screaming on wet road. Pau looked up in terror. "Run!" He pulled Lam and Trang toward the slope. Behind them, a white beam of light tore open the fog. Headlights. An old passenger vehicle burst out of nowhere, following the same curve from years before. It did not touch the ground. Its wheels spun in the air. Its glass was shattered. The people inside had no faces. It rushed straight toward the rusted door. Pau shoved Lam and Trang aside. The ghost vehicle passed through him. In that moment, Lam saw Pau become young again. No old green jacket.
No bull capítol.
Only a 17-year-old assistant, his face bloody, his eyes wide with fear. Pau turned his head toward Lam. "This time I went back." The vehicle disappeared. The fog burst apart like smoke torn by wind. Pao vanished with it. The rescue team found Lam and Trang close to midnight. They were unconscious on a grassy slope less than 20 meters from the main road. There was no track, no old fir tree, no ravine beside them. Trang's camera was completely ruined. The memory card was blank. But Lam's recorder still worked. On it was everything: the whistle, the knocking, his father's voice, the child's voice, Pao weeping. The next morning, Lam asked the homestay owner about Pao. I stayed silent for a long time. Then she took an old photograph from a cabinet. In the photo stood a man in an army green jacket and a black wool cap beside an old pickup. It was Pao. But the photograph had been placed on a small altar. Under it were the words,
Venga Pao,
died in 2019.
Chàng Stipek Bắc.
That's impossible. He drove us for 2 days. I looked at both of them with red eyes. Pao used to drive guests across the pass. Later, he helped with rescue work during paragliding season. One foggy afternoon, a group of visitors took a wrong old road. He drove out to search for them. People found his vehicle beside the road, engine still running, door open. But he was gone. Lam said nothing. I continued. Since then, sometimes visitors say a man in a green jacket helped them get safely down the pass. But no one has his phone number, and when they ask who sent him, no one knows. Trang whispered, "So he saved us?" I looked toward Khau Pha, bright now in the morning sun. Maybe he is still paying a debt no one asked him to pay. Lam opened his bag and took out his father's cassette. He meant to let me hear it. But when he touched it, the plastic case cracked. Inside, there was no magnetic tape. Only a small piece of red cloth, faded by years of fog. On that cloth were words written in blue ballpoint pen. His father's handwriting. Lam has left the vehicle. Let the others leave too. Lam did not understand that sentence until he returned to Hanoi. 3 days later, he reconstructed the audio from his recorder. At the very end, after Pao vanished, it seemed as if the file had ended. But if the volume was raised and the wind was filtered out, there was a tiny final exchange. A child's voice said, "There is one more person." Then Lam's father asked, "Who?" The child answered, "The one listening." Lam sat frozen in the studio. On the computer screen, the waveform formed 3 sharp peaks. At that exact moment, 3 knocks came from outside the studio door. Not loud, not hurried, just steady, like someone very patient. Lam removed his headphones. The room was silent. Then Pao's voice came from the other side of the door. "Lam." A pause. "This time, don't open it alone."
People still come to Khau Pha during the golden season. They still take photographs. They still watch paragliders soar. They still stand at the top of the pass, look down into the sea of clouds, and say the place looks like a gate to the sky. But people who have lived near that road for a long time often warn each other about one thing. If the fog drops too quickly, if the wind over the pass begins to sound like a flute. If you see a red paraglider flying very low, very slowly, with no pilot beneath it, do not follow it right away. Stand still. Call the names of the people with you. And never answer if the wind calls your name exactly. Because on Khau Pha Pass, some voices do not want to kill you. They only want you to turn back. Back to the place where, many years ago, someone was left behind.